Good evening, YouTube friends. Welcome to the show. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks so much for being here. I hope you're ready for, well, let's call it an hour and 10 minutes or so. Heath will be happy if we get to an hour and 10 of fantasy football recapping on this Sunday night. We want you to subscribe and tell all your friends, and let's have some fun and talk fantasy right now. Week 6, Sunday, almost in the books. All we have left is Sunday night football. Welcome, everybody. Adam Azer, Dave Richard, and Heath Cummings here on October 17th, and we are recapping. Every week I come out, this year's great. Every Sunday's so fun. This Sunday kind of stunk. It was not the best Sunday, but that's okay. We still have plenty to talk about, but I'm giving it a thumbs down. I am not hitting like on week 6. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm okay with week 6. We didn't get run over by the injury train. We got a lot of running backs that put up some good numbers, especially guys that we picked up off the waiver wire. So no complaints from me. I think week 6 was good.
I mean, it wasn't very good for Kareem Hunt.
It's shocking that even before the injury that he wasn't having an amazing game. I mean, that was just
I think it's really hard to judge because he basically got hurt at the very start of the fourth quarter. I think he had 78 total yards. He had like 10 fantasy points. It could have very easily been that fourth quarter was when they broke loose. It was amazing that the number one rush offense in the NFL going up against by far the worst, maybe not by far, but arguably the worst run defense in the NFL. And they were averaging like 2 yards a carry, but they didn't have their offensive line. They didn't have Nick Chubb. They weren't the same. And their defense was just completely falling apart.
Right. I mean, that's the other part of it is that it was 20-0 before you could turn around. And so I don't know how much they could really lean on Kareem Hunt on the ground once it's 20-0.
Well, yeah, it did get away from them, absolutely. And we got 3 injuries to talk about with the Browns. Looks like Beckham's okay, but Baker Mayfield's got the shoulder injury, Kareem Hunt the calf injury, and we'll keep you updated. I want one big loser and one big winner, not in that order, for week 6. Heath, I think I made you the loser guy last week, so why don't you be Mr. Optimistic here? Who was?
You're going to make me the winner guy now?
Big winner. You're the winner guy.
You're a winner, Heath.
Yay. I'm a winner now.
One big winner.
Yeah. This is why you should always go to Dave first.
Come on, one winner?
Well, no, because I send you the winners, and then I can't ever find a stupid text message from where I sent you the winners.
How about you look in the notes? I'm literally looking at your winners.
Let me throw out 3 names for you, just that I came up with, okay? How about Kenyan Drake, Adam Thielen, or Ricky Seals-Jones? What do you think about them?
The biggest winner by far was Ricky Seals-Jones. Okay. 15 targets in 2 games without Logan Thomas. He's just got the Logan Thomas role. We can't avoid tight ends who have 15 targets over 2 weeks. That's a starting tight end.
I think
Ricky Seals-Jones needs to be universally rostered.
Oh, come on.
Look, he's going to win. Logan Thomas coming back. It's going to be at least one more week.
Well, but he had a 39-yard touchdown where he was completely wide open. So busted coverage, kind of a joke, right?
I didn't say anything about his touchdown or his catches or his yards.
Right, but you said he had to be universally rostered. That kind of implies something about it.
You tell me that Adam Azer has played tight end for 2 weeks and seen 15 targets, especially when we're going into a week when Dalton Schultz, Dawson Knox, Dan Arnold, Tyler Conklin, Jared Cook, Donald Parham, all going to be on a bye.
Yeah. No, okay. All right, fine. He won't be 100% rostered, but he'll get up there. He'll get over 60%, I would assume. Ricky Seals-Jones.
He's going to totally let us down. I'm so scared. I was scared this week. I was scared of him. I was scared of Njoku, scared of Evan Ingram. Guys, it's just such a track record of being busts in fantasy. But RFK came through.
Tight ends. Ricky Seals-Jones did come through. All right, Dave, you get to keep being the pessimistic one. Give me one big loser from week.
Oh, I don't know if there's a bigger loser than Allen Robinson at this point. Fantasy managers can't be excited to start him no matter what. 2 games ago, it was Las Vegas. Amazing matchup. Justin Fields on the field. Good opportunity. Nope. No production. This week, it's Green Bay at home. Maybe a statement game for Justin Fields. Beat up secondary for the Packers. Nope. 4 catches for 50-something yards.
Yeah, 53.
It's been miserable this year. And Justin Fields is – we were talking in the preseason like Justin Fields is going to be the best quarterback that he would ever work with. Is it possible that Justin Fields is the worst quarterback that Allen Robinson has ever worked with?
Come on.
It's not working. It is not working for him in Chicago.
Just okay. We've got a little bit. Dave's been able to suppress his Chicago Bear fan inside of him for almost the entire time that I have known him.
There's no repressing.
You could see when the Bears got Justin Fields and we had this off season, you could see a little bit of a sparkle in Dave's eye. And so I think maybe there's a little bit of a rational Bear fan, Dave, coming out in this Justin Fields might be the worst quarterback Allen Robinson's ever played with.
No,
because he's a rookie quarterback who has been okay for a rookie quarterback.
Yeah,
he's
but
not
like
the worst quarterback Allen Robinson's ever played with, certainly.
It doesn't matter. I mean, the fact is he's not boosting Allen Robinson, although does it matter at all that Robinson actually led the team in receiving today with 53 yards?
No, that makes it even worse.
Okay.
And no one's going to be great there in Chicago. That's why Darnell Mooney isn't a winner. He caught a touchdown. Does it mean that he's a must-start guy? No. Allen Robinson is a must-sit guy, even against Tampa Bay next week. I'm not ready to trust him. We're at the point with Allen Robinson where we have to see it. And by the way, that twinkle in my eye that you're talking about, I was probably thinking about ice cream.
or pizza. Drop Allen Robinson or hold him?
10-team leagues, you can drop him. 12-team leagues, he's droppable.
Okay. All right, let's get to the big news here. But FFT is now on Amazon Alexa Flash Briefings. You can ask Alexa to add CBS Sports Fantasy Football Today to your Alexa Flash Briefing. Very cool. Kareem Hunt, calf injury. Baker Mayfield, shoulder injury. He says he can play through it. They have a Thursday night game, right, against Denver. So that's even worse.
He did play through it. Like, he didn't leave the game because he was hurt. He left the game because they were getting boat raced.
But he got hurt in the game.
He did get hurt. He just came back in the very next drive.
Yeah. Okay, but he's got a shoulder thing going on. Odell Beckham left in the first half with a shoulder, but he returned. So as we talk about the running backs here, and we'll lump him in with Latavius Murray. He left with an ankle injury, and Devontae Freeman ended up with a decent game. Le'Veon Bell, I think, had 8 carries. I want to say 4 of them came in garbage time. There was a lot of garbage time in that game, but he was kind of this game's over with guy. Anyway, when you look at those backfields, Baltimore and Cleveland, if you're picking someone up, who's it going to be?
Oh, it's Devontae Freeman for me. He started this game looking good for Baltimore. I thought he looked good at the end of the game last week for the Ravens. He was the last to score for the Ravens, but Latavius got hurt. And Le'Veon just got lucky with the touchdown, I would say. I think Freeman looked okay. I'm not going to sink a ton of fab into him. I'm not going to trust him as anything more than a bye week running back, especially if Latavius Murray is okay. I don't even know if I can trust him as a bye week running back. But the Ravens are looking for something in the ground game. They got it from all 3 of the veterans. One of them got hurt. The other one, I don't know what Le'Veon really is. I don't know if he's still explosive. And not that Devontae was explosive, but he was adequate. He was good.
Yeah. I just think we have a lot. I'll talk about the Ravens more later, but we have a lot of information that we need about the Browns, right?
Yeah. Nick Chubb has not been ruled out. There was talk about him going on IR, but then more optimism that he might be able to get back on Thursday. But yeah, Dearness Johnson might be the next man up. I don't think Felton's going to get much work in the running game, but we just don't know. So, and then the other guy, honestly, Tyson Williams, 50% rostered. Maybe he works his way back in the mix as well.
Harbaugh talked him up after the game. So wrap your head around this, is that all 3 of the veteran running backs scored. And after the game, it's John Harbaugh talking about how he's happy about the veteran running backs. But Tyson Williams, I'll put in that category too. This is his quote, because he's not done yet by any stretch. He's developing and he's learning from these guys too. So he's talking about Tyson as if he had a decent game. In a week, he made him inactive.
Well, Tyson doesn't need to learn on Sundays. Tyson needs to learn where he's supposed to go on given plays. And then he gets to play more because he's way more explosive than these guys. He just doesn't ever know what he's supposed to do.
Well, that's a problem.
Not okay. It shouldn't say never. There are occasions when he does.
He did earlier in the year. Looked great.
Guys, let's move on here. We'll have plenty of time to talk about that. We have more injuries. Antonio Gibson left in the first half with a shin injury. Then they called it a calf. Is it calf or shin? What's the deal here? with Antonio Gibson.
He
Two
has
different injuries.
he has a
Injuries.
fractured shin, right? It's a
That we know.
micro fracture.
Stress
He
fracture.
also suffered a different injury.
Okay. So, all right. So then you got maybe Jaret Patterson, or it might just be the JD McKissic show, and he's 74% rostered. So that means even in your non-PPR leagues, you're going to want to get JD McKissic.
Did you skip Tony?
I'm coming with him right now.
All right.
Kadarius Toney
He's
just
working his way to the big injury.
just ripped my heart out. I mean, 3 for 36 on the first drive, and he didn't even finish the drive. I started him over so many good players. I went to bat for him during the pregame show. Chris and I got heated about it, of course, and I think he was going to have a huge game, so I'll just call it a win. But he left with an ankle injury. He'd already had the ankle injury. No updates as that I saw, but this stinks. And hopefully Galladay's back next week. They have Carolina, but this is crazy. Their left tackle went out too. Crazy.
Why do you like when you say hopefully Galladay comes back? Do you mean for the people who have Kenny Galladay on their fantasy teams?
Yeah, and for Galladay.
What?
And for him,
so that he can play football.
Yeah,
he's going to get paid either way.
Whatever he wants to play. Yeah, for the Galladay managers.
Because the best thing that could happen for you is that every single starter on the Giants team doesn't play another down.
Oh, yeah. They're going to win a lot of games, Heath, if they get healthy. I'm not worried about that. They're losing it either way. But yeah, Tony got hurt, and we'll have to get the update. There were 3 significant offensive tackle injuries. Did Tyron Smith come back in? I'm sorry.
Yes,
I believe he did.
Sure.
Yes.
Okay. So that's one we can check off. Plus, they have a bye. Garrett Bowles left late for Denver, and Andrew Thomas, as I mentioned, for the Giants. He's been playing hurt, and he left again. T.Y. Hilton and Paris Campbell both got hurt, and that stinks. I mean, Hilton led the team in receiving. He looks like, he was looking like a top waiver wire priority, but quad injury, and we'll have to see on him.
And you never know, like, every 7 yards against the Texans is worth 2.5 yards to his future projections. So you never know.
Yeah, he does crush them. Dan Campbell, head coach of the Lions, in case you're not familiar, he said that Jared Goff needs to step up more, but also said that he can't accurately judge Jared Goff yet. But he called him out a little bit and said he needs to play better.
I thought you were going somewhere differently when you said Dan Campbell said he can't accurately. Thought he was going to say throw.
Yeah. And then listen, AJ Brown's questionable with an illness. Is there any player that we can pick up here on Monday night if we have the roster flexibility?
From the Titans and their offense, I think Josh Reynolds would be a good one to go with.
Yeah. Maybe McNichols, because if you think that they're going to be playing from behind, he might get some catches.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't know the answer to that. I am embarrassed to say this.
What?
Maybe I shouldn't say it.
Say it.
It's out of the bag, right?
Yeah.
I don't know what you're about to say, but I'm sure it's going to embarrass you.
At what point can you drop a player who's on bye?
Now.
You can still drop him?
Yeah.
I think so.
Well, I think that may depend on your league settings, but I know in some of my leagues I definitely can.
Okay, because for example, Heath and I have a league where we're starting AJ Brown, and we have we have like Trey Sermon, so that might be something that we explore.
We can drop Trey Sermon right now.
All right. Well, I don't know that we should, but
You can drop players on bye.
Okay. Winners. I knew you could drop players on bye. Obviously, I didn't know once the games maybe started on Sunday, but all right, you can drop them all the way until Monday. Winners and losers. Heath's winners, I mentioned them earlier as a joke. Kenyan Drake, Adam Thielen, and Ricky Seals-Jones. He is already, I think he said Ricky Seals-Jones top 5 rest of season.
Yep.
Yeah. He's got Kenyan Drake and Adam Thielen. Why is Kenyan Drake a winner?
I want to go back and just make sure everybody knows I was joking. Ricky Seals-Jones is not a top 5 tight end for the rest of the season. But
is he even a top 5 tight end next week?
I don't know. I'll have to see when the rankings come out. Well, Kenyan Drake's a winner because he got to play again. Apparently, it was just Gruden who hated him. And not only that, he was awesome on the few opportunities that he got. 4 carries for 34 yards and a long touchdown, 2 catches, 39 yards and a long touchdown. He's at least a part of the game plan again. Now, I don't think rightly they're going to give him that many carries in comparison to Josh Jacobs, but he does appear to at least have a third down passing role. They didn't throw very many passes in this game, so I wouldn't take too much into the fact that he only had 2 targets. It's just the fact that he was playing more again.
Yeah, good to see him back. And I think the other side of that is the catches were gone for Josh Jacobs. And maybe
he caught a pass.
Yeah. He had 9 in the previous 2 games, 9 catches, I think.
It's another one of those games where you're going to say Josh Jacobs was terrible and he was probably a top 15 running back for the week.
I just think he was a loser because Drake is back in the mix in the passing situation.
I thought he was a winner because I kind of thought after last week that the Raiders winning early was fraudulent and that they were really bad, and that would be terrible for Josh Jacobs. And they didn't look really bad today.
All right. I mean, that's a fair point too. And then Adam Thielen, this is one of those tough situations, right? I was actually impressed that he was still started in 73% of leagues, and he comes through with a great game, 126 yards, 11 catches, 1 touchdown. So, what's your, obviously he's got the bye next week, but then after that, what's your recommendation on Adam Thielen?
I guess we just start him again. I mean, I don't know. Like, I talked about this obviously a lot last week, and he had one game this year with more than 50 yards. And generally speaking, if a guy goes 5 weeks into the season and only tops 50 yards once, he's not a great bet to get 13 targets the next week, 14 targets, whatever he had. But that's what happened in this game, and he produced with them. So I think it'll work out pretty well. I don't know how much to factor in the fact that Jefferson came into this game banged up, but Jefferson had 14 targets, just didn't produce quite as well.
I got some breaking news here.
Oh, go for it.
Dak Prescott suffered a calf strain on the game-winning touchdown pass. He will be evaluated further on Monday. They have a bye coming up, but we will keep an eye on that calf strain for Dak. Okay, Dave, your winners are Sterling Shepard, 64% rostered, last man standing. Mike Gesicki, 115 yards with 8 catches at Jacksonville, in London. Road game technically for home game for Jacksonville, whatever. And Devontae Freeman, who we already talked about, he's 3% rostered. So yeah, go for it. Shepard ended up with 10 catches for 76 yards. He did have 5 of those catches on the last 2 drives of the game. I don't know if that matters to you, but Shepard, Gesicki, and Freeman, go.
Well, with Shepard, it's another game with 9+ targets from Daniel Jones. We're happy to see that. His role did not change at all after he was back from the injury list. I don't know how much of it had to do with Kadarius Toney getting hurt, and if Toney remains out, what does that mean long-term for Shepard? It probably means he's still going to continue to get a lot of targets. So I think he's one of those receivers that you look at in PPR and go, I got to find a way to start him week in and week out. Awesome as a number 3 option if you can do that. And Gesicki, I think, remains a startable fantasy tight end. It was great to see him connect with Tua. Remember week 1 when Gesicki didn't even have a catch and everybody was freaking out about it? Well, I know that the Dolphins' passing game is going to eventually get Will Fuller back and Devontae Parker back, but I think Gesicki is going to be a staple in that offense moving forward.
Yeah. So who would you rather have rest of season, Gesicki or Dallas Goedert?
I'm leaning toward Gesicki.
I'd lean towards Goddard.
Okay. And as far as Sterling Shepard goes, is he a bigger priority than Devontae Freeman on the waiver wire?
I mean, it depends on what you need. If you need a receiver in PPR more than you need a running back, you'll make a beeline to Shepard.
Yeah. Okay. Then let's go to our losers here. First, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk to you about Robbie Anderson. Even though he had a touchdown catch, he's still a loser. Javonte Williams, is the workload ever going to come for him? So more on that, plus a segment called "Still a Must Start?" ? And Darren Waller is in there, just so we can talk about Darren Waller. We'll be right back on Fantasy Football Today. Time for our Week 6 losers. So, Dave, you've got Devontae Booker, Robbie Anderson, and Allen Robinson. You already talked about Allen Robinson. You said you can drop him in a 10-team league. He is droppable in a 12-team league, but not a must-drop, but sitting him for now. Devontae Booker, I guess, 16 touches. That's good. It wasn't a terrible game. But are you going to have faith in him next week? No, it was. It was 10 PPR points.
I'm looking for 15 PPR points from my running back. 10 doesn't. It's better
not a
than
fair expectation from a low-end number 2 running back.
I disagree. I think that if you're starting, maybe
disagrees with you.
Well, okay, fine. Then he had a great game. Everybody should be thrilled with the crap burger that he fed us.
He
the Giants
bad, but do you have?
I'm disappointed by what Devontae Booker gave me. Okay, 10 PPR points isn't exciting for me. Even if history tells me that a low end number 2 running back is worth 10 PPR points.
What about Robbie Anderson's keeper drop? 69% roster.
Oh,
He's got the crappy Giants next week.
I have a friend who likes to drop kick his chewed gum. That's what I would do with Robbie. You can drop kick him anywhere you want, toward the sun, into a lake, into your mortal enemy's house. He doesn't belong on your fantasy squad anymore. He's getting a ton of his last 3 games, 29 targets, 10 or 11 catches, something like that. Terrible yards per catch. I don't think he even has 100 yards on 29 targets.
Yards on 29 targets, but 29 targets. So that's just 29.
That's
great. So in my point per target league, apparently that's amazing.
He also scored a touchdown.
Javonte Booker.
He also scored a touchdown.
A world where they're good,
and he's going back to New York this week. Does that count?
Yeah, to the Giants.
Well, he already had the revenge game. That was.
But he's going back to his stadium.
Then he's been
revenge on that stadium.
Great.
It's true.
Good. So when I drop him, you can pick him up and you can use him.
It's a little risky to drop a guy who could get 10 targets in a week where 6 teams are on.
Dude, he's done it 2 of the last 3 weeks and he's done nothing with it. Nothing.
I mean, he had 10 PPR points today.
He was just as good as Devontae Booker. Somehow they both ended up on this list. The problem is that I can't look at Devontae Booker and say, oh yeah, you could drop him. Can't do it with him.
All right, who are you dropping first, guys? Robbie Anderson or
Robbie Anderson is going straight into the garbage. Hold on.
This is great. Oh, there goes Dave.
Dave just left. He's throwing him in the garbage.
He's drop kicking his gum. Who drop kicks gum? Oh, there's Dave into the studio. This is like SNL. There's a garbage can. Dave is going to bring it on set. While he does that, Heath will introduce your losers. Javonte Williams, who had 14 touches. He had 3 catches again. That's now 4 straight games with 3 catches. Oh, a Panthers helmet into the garbage. Those are nice helmets, by the way. Okay, Javonte Williams, Myles Gaskin, and Jakobi Meyers are your losers.
I tried really hard to reverse jinx Javonte Williams into a good game. And in fairness to me, I did. Because when I sent that, he had 6 carries for 17 yards and 1 catch. And Melvin Gordon had like 60 yards. But then the next drive was a Javonte Williams drive. And he had his 30-yard carry that he has every week now. It's just like, this is maybe 3 or 4 weeks in a row that I've heard from a variety of people. It's not the same person. I'm not picking on anybody. That this is going to be the Javonte Williams week. And once again, it's not the Javonte Williams week. I think Melvin Gordon once again had more fantasy points.
Did he?
I just don't.
Very close, but
they were very, very close.
Well, that's the story of the season for those two.
Yeah.
I think actually Javonte Williams failed to record 10 PPR fantasy points. Worse than both Robbie Anderson and Devontae Booker.
Yeah. What did he have? He had 68 yards and 3 catches. So that's
9.8.
No, I mean, it's a little annoying here. I mean, at least he gives you something flex worthy, I suppose. But you love to see him get a lot of work because he is so he breaks so many tackles and he does make these big plays, but he's just not getting enough work. Myles Gaskin.
And like, it's not, I don't think it's fair to say like the Broncos are dumb for not giving the ball to Melvin Gordon more. Melvin Gordon broke a lot of tackles and averaged 5 yards per carry today. This system, as far as the running game goes, is working pretty well for them. Now, the other things didn't work very well.
No, and we thought this game would go totally differently. We thought that the Broncos would play with a lead, and that would mean more carries for the running backs. And Las Vegas came out and looked really good. Henry Ruggs looked really good.
I think I'd drop Myles Gaskin before I'd drop anybody else that we've talked about. I'm so mad at him because it wasn't even that we got fooled by the Dolphins coaches. In the first quarter, the first half of that game, Myles Gaskin had a ton of opportunities to have a very good fantasy day, and he completely blew it. And I don't think that means the Dolphins are done with Myles Gaskin. There will probably be another time where we're saying that you have to pick Myles Gaskin up, but you can't trust him right now. Poor Jakobi Meyers. He had a touchdown today.
Yeah,
he did.
He was in the end zone with the football, celebrating, and then there was a flag. He did catch a 2-point conversion, so I'm giving him credit for a third of a touchdown.
He ended up with 5 catches. Let me just give the stats in case people don't know, right? Myles Gaskin had 5 carries for 9 yards, 2 catches in this game. and he fumbled. That was, I think, a huge play. That they went to Ahmed right after he fumbled, and it was a 3-man rotation after the fumble in the first quarter. But from the start, like the first drive, it was all Gaskin pretty much. Jakobi Myers, 5 catches for 44 yards on 6 touchdowns. He also had that on 6 targets. He also had that touchdown call back against the Dallas Cowboys. So he's had a couple of really good games. That was when, basically, Heath, it's like whenever they cannot run the ball, Myers is really good. They were able to run the ball pretty well and pretty often in this game.
But the thing is, like, the really good, he's still been much less efficient than he was last year. I said it on FFT this morning. He averaged 9 yards per target with Cam Newton last year. He's around 7 this year. That means he's pretty much got to catch 8 or 9 passes to have a good fantasy day. He's not going to score a touchdown. He's not going to get a bunch of yards.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So, yeah, what did he have? He had 9 for 94 in one game. He had 8 for 70 in another against the Saints and the Bucs. All right, a new segment here called, well, you know what? Let's 1 second here. Would you rather have Jakobi Myers or Odell Beckham?
Odell.
I think I'd rather have Myers PPR.
And I want to clarify that. Like, I don't know who the Patriots play next week.
They play the Jets.
Okay, so there's a good chance that if I had both those guys on my roster, I would be starting Jakobi Myers over Odell Beckham. Yeah, but I have this tiny inkling of hope that Odell Beckham could be someone that makes a difference for my fantasy team. Mm-hmm. I don't really think that's possible with Jakobi Myers.
Yeah, and I'm not even sure the Jets is the right time to start. I mean, I know the Jets stink, but they're going to run the ball on the Jets a lot. So we'll have to investigate. He's already played the Jets. He couldn't have had that good of a game. So still a must start ? Tell me if these players are still must starts. Robert Woods started in 89% of leagues, 2 catches, 31 yards, and a touchdown on 5 targets at the Giants. Is he still a must start, Robert Woods?
I want to lean towards saying that he is still a must start, particularly with 6 teams on bye next week and a lot of teams on bye in the weeks coming after. We knew he wasn't going to get double-digit targets every single game. He still scored. That was nice. But he's real close to that line of like low end number 2 wide receiver, high end number 3 receiver. And I think people should be accepting of that at this point.
By the way, side note, how many wide receivers would you take ahead of Cooper Kupp rest of season? And is it 0 or is it 1?
It might be. Well, Javonte Adams would be a candidate. That's Tyreek rest of season? I don't think so.
I think I'd still take Tyreek rest of season.
He's up there.
Totally
just those 2, that's it.
Yeah, I can't even call it like, oh, this is just the Cup run. No, it's Goff just loves
the Cup run has started since week 1.
The Cup. Did you say Goff loves him?
Stafford, well, probably does. Stafford loves him. He throws him 10 balls a game.
I would say Goff misses him for sure.
Yeah. Chase Edmonds only started in 43% of leagues. I don't know if that was injury related and they had a late game. No. He wasn't certain, but is he still a must start in PPR?
He never was. Well, that's the thing. Cause like 43% of leagues, 60% of our leagues are full PPR, 55 to 60%. So he was started in 80% of the leagues he should have been.
No, he's not.
During the buys, he probably is like next week, but I don't even, probably.
Yeah, so here are his full PPR fantasy points for Chase Edmonds in non-decimal scoring. 14, 11, 13, 17. That was the first 4 weeks, 11 or more every game. Last 2 weeks have been 3 and 7.
Shoulder injury.
So the last 2 weeks he's combined for a Devontae Booker.
Is he still a must start going into a bye? Okay, but forget that. Keenan Allen, 5 catches for 50 yards on 5 targets at the Ravens, actually led the team in receiving. Is Keenan Allen still a must start?
Yes.
I was tempted to name him as a loser, Adam, because he really hasn't had an amazing game since week 2. He might have had 1 since then. But I think that you still look at Keenan Allen as somebody who's in a good offense, capable of getting 10 targets a week, probably a step above where we're putting Robert Woods.
This was tied for his worst game of the season, 10 fantasy points. When your best game of the season is 19 to 20 fantasy points and your worst game of the season is 10 fantasy points, you are a must-start player.
I'm going to go further, and I even said, It may not be this week, but I still want to buy low on Keenan Allen.
Yep.
And again, he led the team in receiving. This wasn't on Keenan Allen. They just had a horrible game. Obviously, it was the East Coast trip, 1:00 start, obviously. But they got a bye coming up.
We say this with players, and this
Yeah,
will be
sorry,
controversial.
Let me just finish this point. If you ever, if you really believe in a player, his bye week is a great time to buy low on him. Go ahead, Heath.
Okay, glad you got that in there.
Yes, thank you.
We say this about players. Can we say this about coaches? It was a really bad week to be the two coaches that everybody decided this week were the smartest coaches in the NFL.
Right.
I don't know who they are.
Stefanski and Brandon Staley.
Like over and over and over, we heard about how smart they are and how they're. And I just, we say sometimes with players that they hear all that, and then sometimes they take foot off the gas a little bit. Can we say that about coaches too?
I don't think it applies to Stefanski. He wasn't even at the game.
Yeah, he was too.
What are you talking about? That's Cliff Kingsbury.
You're thinking of Kingsbury.
Oh, gee, I'm sorry.
He got out coached by an interim coach.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry. They faced each other, and Stefanski actually missed the game in the playoffs last year. I'm sorry about that. So I got confused for COVID. All right, Darren Waller. He's a must start because he's a tight end, but is he still a stud?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
What's going on here? 5 catches, 59 yards. That's now 50 to 65 yards in 5 straight games.
How many PPR fantasy points did he score?
10.9.
Yeah, if you want him to be Javonte Booker, Heath, I think that we probably overdrafted him. That's my guess.
Javonte Booker would be a must-start tight end.
I wouldn't necessarily disagree with that. If you could start Javonte Booker as a tight end, should you do it? Hell yeah. Absolutely. Different positions.
I don't know what
I'm doing a Twitter poll for this. You're crazy.
And I'm not trying to dismiss the question. I just don't know exactly what type of response you're looking for. I think Darren Waller is still, if I had to rank rest of season the tight ends, Darren Waller would still probably be third.
Do you still consider him an elite fantasy player? Darren Waller.
I don't know.
I do.
Yeah, it's tough because there's
Probably.
no explanation for it, right? It doesn't make he didn't throw a lot today, but there's no explanation.
Yeah, it's just really tough. Like, of the elite fantasy players at the beginning of the season, like 40% of them are currently on injured reserve, and 30% of them have disappointed. So I don't know.
If anybody is watching the video and sees my face, it means something wild happened in the game. So I just kind of did like, oh. Anyway, that is your new segment. Still a must start.
You are such a homer.
Yeah, Travis Homer had a nice play. Tyreek Hill left but returned. Joe Mixon left but returned. Justin Fields threw an interception on, it looked like he thought it was a free play. He thought he got them to jump off sides.
He was right.
Yeah.
They did jump off sides, and the officials didn't give it to him.
Right. So let's put.
If that had been Aaron Rodgers, that would have been a penalty.
Let's see. Ricky Seals-Jones, I mentioned that his touchdown was on busted coverage. Jonathan Taylor had an 83-yard run. It's the longest run for any player this season.
He got caught from behind.
Loser. Donovan Peoples-Jones caught a 57-yard Hail Mary at the end of the first half. That explains part of his production. CJ Uzama, this was cool. He caught a touchdown. He goes to celebrate, slaps 5 with a fan, knocks the fan's cell phone out of his hand onto the field. I don't know if the guy ever got his phone back. Kind of regretting celebrating with
Did they kick the guy out?
No, I don't think so.
I think if you lose control of one of your personal items and it goes on the field, you are out of there.
That would be harsh. That would be a bad day at the ballpark. Patriots had 3 injuries, and I don't know if any of them came back in. Jonathan Jones, cornerback, Dante Hightower, linebacker, and defensive lineman Chase Winovich. They all, it's a V, right? Yeah. Winovich or Winovich?
Winovich. Which is which?
That's what I thought, but then I heard it pronounced. I don't know, whatever.
He wasn't
all left with injuries.
Then you play today.
Who?
Winovich.
Yes, he did.
It was Kevin Stefanski.
Okay, let's go to the games. And this time we're starting with the late games because the 1 o'clock games stunk. Arizona 37, Cleveland 14. What do we got for believe it or not?
Believe it or not, James Conner is better than Chase Edmonds in non-PPR.
Oh, come on. Make it more interesting. Make it full PPR.
No.
Make it
No
happen.
one.
PPR.
We weren't drafting James Conner ahead of Chase Edmonds. This would be a new development. 2 weeks ago, nobody thought James Conner was better than Chase Edmonds in non-PPR.
It's true. No, he's better than Chase Edmonds in non-PPR. And I think Edmonds will have some good games again. This isn't a death knell for him, although I do have to wonder if the injury is really serious and that's what's holding him back. But Conner keeps scoring. This offense keeps going. We studied their schedule during the games. And by studying, I mean, we yelled it out and made guesses on which games the Arizona Cardinals might lose. There's a lot of games that Arizona has left in front of them that seem conducive to Conner putting up good numbers.
Like the Texans next week.
There you go. Conner will be a top 24 running back next week.
Our listener or viewer, Albert, is saying that Joe Mixon grabbed the cell phone that Uzama knocked out and took a selfie with the fan.
We still don't know if he got the phone back.
Yeah, he kept it. That's awesome. I got another believe it or not. Believe it or not, or I'll do a different
by sell.
Fire sell. Fire sell. Kyler Murray can be an elite quarterback without the rushing production, as he has 7 rushing yards in his last 2 games.
I think he can. He had a rushing touchdown called back today, by the way.
He did.
I think he can be an elite quarterback without crazy rushing numbers. I think when he gets in the red zone, they'll have it in his back pocket that he could always run it in for a touchdown. I think that's a clever way to try and limit his, potential to getting hurt while still making him an effective part of the offense. And so maybe one of the projects I could do this week is see how many rushing yards or rushing attempts he even has outside of the red zone versus inside of the red zone. I bet it would lay out that he's doing more in the red zone than out of it.
That's the key distinction I would make. I think he can be an elite fantasy quarterback without running 10 times a game, because he's only running 5 to 7 times a game this year. I don't think he can be an elite quarterback without the rushing touchdowns.
Okay. And finally on this game, would you have any hesitation dropping Christian Kirk, big game, AJ Green, big game, Rondale Moore, big game last week? Would you have any hesitation dropping any of these 3 wide receivers, obviously not Hopkins, for Sterling Shepard or Devontae Freeman, whoever it's going to be on the waiver wire?
Kirk, I could do it because I think he's just going to be way too inconsistent. And Shepard speaks to me as someone who could be consistent. Moore, I think you can drop. Green's the least sexy of them all, but I feel like he is still going to be a more significant part of this offense, or as significant as he's been is probably the best way to do it.
But would you really hesitate to drop AJ Green to pick up someone you wanted on waivers?
I think you would hesitate, especially with someone like Sterling Shepard, because they play Houston next week, and any of those 3 guys has like a 30 to 40% chance of putting up 20 fantasy points in a given week. And that causes me hesitation dropping a player who could do that.
Okay. Let's go to Dallas 35, New England 29. And believe it or not.
Believe it or not, I don't like that one. Ramondre Stevenson is going to be the best Patriots running back rest of season.
Harris left with an injury. Did he come back in?
I'm pretty sure he did.
He
saw
did.
him.
You did? Thanks,
Yeah.
Ben. I should know that. I was sitting there watching the game with Ben. How do I not know that? No, I don't believe it. I still think Harris is going to be the bigger part of that run game.
Well, the run game is not necessarily where the distinction we made, I don't think. They really made an effort to feature Stevenson in the passing game. And he can do things like he's a different than James White and Brandon Bolden, in that there is a possibility they could give him 15 carries as well.
I think Ramondre Stevenson catching 3 passes was one of the more surprising things this way. I did not, to me, he's LeGarrette Blount. I was surprised that he was used that way.
And Tom Spencer told us that he was going to be more involved on FFT on CBS Sports HQ. That's why you should watch that on Sunday. What's that?
He said more involved in the
Before
passing
the
game.
game.
More involved.
He said he was going to be more involved. I don't remember if he made the distinction of the passing game.
I don't think he did. I think it was smart for the Patriots to try it with Stevenson and see what he can do. And, caught 3 targets. He's got more to his game than Brandon Bolden does. It shoves Brandon Bolden right back into a special teams role until Stevenson makes a mistake. He made a mistake in this game in pass protection.
Yes, he
but
did.
He could drop some passes or fumble again, and then
Did anybody believe it or not?
Back to the bench.
No, I don't believe it. I mean, look,
It.
it's hard to believe it when Damian Harris had 18 carries, 101 yards, and a touchdown, and Stevenson had 8 touches. But Stevenson definitely got more work, and he's going to be someone that gets added. He's 34% rostered. What do we think about CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper? Lamb with a huge game winner in overtime, 149 yards, 2 touchdowns on 11 targets, and another dud for Cooper. 5 catches, 55 yards. Devontae Booker territory here, 10 PPR fantasy points.
Well, both of these guys were having a dud midway through the fourth quarter. CeeDee Lamb's production was, I think.
Lamb had a touchdown in the third quarter.
Was it late in the third?
It was relatively late.
So it was like his third catch. He had 3 catches for 27 yards and a touchdown or something at that point?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, he got off to a slow start. I think that's the safe way to put it. But I look at this game as the game where CeeDee Lamb became the true number 1 receiver for the Cowboys moving forward. And a lot of people we talked about this in the draft, that he was already in draft season, that he was the number 1 receiver. But there were still moments in the first few weeks of the season where Cooper was either better than him in fantasy or really close to him in fantasy. And now I think it's just over. I think that he proved that he can help will the Cowboys to win, and that he's Dak Prescott's top guy. And there will be some games moving forward where Amari Cooper will be better than CeeDee Lamb, but I think Lamb has reached alpha status quite easily here.
Okay, but if we're looking at this from a sell or buy standpoint here, the 11 targets for Lamb were, the pass attempts. Dak threw 51 times. The previous 4 games was like 25-ish, 27, 25-ish, and then 32 against the Giants. So, do you look to sell? Plus, we have Michael Gallup coming back at some point. Do you look to get? Would you trade? I think this is a fair question. I know a lot of people would think I'm crazy. CeeDee Lamb for Keenan Allen, and maybe you can get something else.
I'd rather have Keenan Allen.
You should absolutely get something else. No, I'd rather have Lamb.
It's an interesting.
Sounds like it's a trade that could be done.
Yeah.
If I had Keenan Allen on my teams, and I could turn him into CeeDee Lamb, I'm in.
Yeah. Okay. I don't disagree. I do think it's close though, because I could make a case. You can make a case for both guys. Another big game for Dalton Schultz. He's now scored double-digit PPR points in all but 1 game, and that is going to do it for this game. You got lucky with the Hunter Henry touchdown. The Patriots barely had the ball. Mac Jones only threw 21 times. Before we get on to Las Vegas and Denver, look at this. Oh, this is the selfie.
Oh, that's cool.
Nixon picks it up, and then I'm told he gave him okay, the guy tweeted it.
Well, obviously he got his phone back.
That was his tweet. Okay, that's great. So Mixon took a selfie with him, gave him the phone back. Very cool. Las Vegas 34, Denver 24.
Believe it or not, Henry Ruggs is a startable number 3 wide receiver.
He's definitely startable. I believe it. But I love using guys like Henry Ruggs in my flex. But given this coming week with all the teams on bye, and again, I don't have the Raiders schedule in front of me, I think that Henry Ruggs there it is. If it's Philadelphia, I think he's got a great shot to come through again.
Actually, I'll tell you something. Going into the game, I don't remember how this played out. But the Eagles going into the Thursday night game against the Bucs, they were the best in the NFL, or maybe the second best at limiting big pass plays.
They've just been playing that 2 deep safety,
right?
Ever since Brandon Graham that got hurt, because they were awesome against the run early in the season, and then they just decided, you know what, we can't stop the run anymore. Let's try to stop the pass.
There's not going to be a time, I don't think, anytime soon, where we're going to look at Henry Ruggs and say that's a must-start fantasy wide receiver. But if you're calling him, he should absolutely be among your options to start from week to week.
Okay. I mean, would you rather have Renfro or Ruggs?
I kind of want to. Am I overreacting if I say Ruggs? Maybe a little bit, because Renfro had a stinky game, but this was also a game where, Carr only threw the ball 27 times. It was an unexpected game script for sure.
Yeah, it was.
I will still take Renfro, because even in this game, Renfro had more targets and the same number of catches.
Ruggs is one of the most interesting players. I don't know that there's a better big play, only big play receiver. That's like all he does, and he caught 2 big ones in this game. We talked about Waller. We talked about the Broncos running backs. Cortland
What
Sutton.
about Derek Carr?
Yeah,
Is Derek Carr a good week 7 replacement quarterback with all the quarterbacks that are going to be on bye?
Cortland Sutton, another guy who really saved your. Can we just like come up with a name that is based around DeAndre Swift for guys who save their day in the fourth quarter and or overtime?
Guy. Yeah, I think it's just swifting.
He swifted.
Yeah,
Sutton was very swift today.
DeAndre Swift does it every week. It's amazing.
You know when it happens too? When we're watching the games and someone says, "Oh man, another dud for DeAndre Swift. What's going on?" And every time somebody says something like that, DeAndre Swift is doing his thing.
Okay, wait. Let me finish this game here. Cortland Sutton, he's been mostly very involved and pretty good, other than the Jets game when they only needed to throw 25 times. But he goes 94 yards and a touchdown on 14 targets, 2 big games in a row. I mean, is it legit, or is it going to go away when Judy comes back?
I think it probably goes away.
I think it'll come down. I tend to agree with Heath. Like, the only way it won't go away is if Jerry Jeudy isn't himself and he's not, getting open at will like he was before the injury.
Might be time to think about selling Noah Fant then.
No, I can't.
No.
I think you could try selling on Noah Fant. I don't think you should expect a whole lot for him. Sutton's the one you could try selling high on.
Jacksonville 23 and Miami 20 in London.
Gross. Believe it or not, after the bye, Marvin Jones is going to be a must-start wide receiver.
Let me tell you a little story before anybody answers that, okay? We have the 11:30 a.m. stream on YouTube. Somebody said, "I can't figure out Marvin Jones. Great games, then he's terrible, and I sit him, and now he's having a huge game." And I said, "You just figured out Marvin Jones."
Yeah. Did you ever?
So I don't buy it.
No.
I think he's a decent start. It's just, he's going to be.
I think you'd rather start him than Henry Ruggs every week.
Yes. Like, this is a number 3 receiver on a team that is probably going to throw a decent amount week in and week out. It just so happened this week that he went up against the Dolphins defense that was already thin on pass rushers, and now without their top 2 cornerbacks. So everything looked really good for Marvin Jones, and it made sense, and he came through with a big game.
I did the wrong, believe it or not, so we're going to do another one because I actually have one for the article. Believe it or not, with the bye this week, Laviska Shenault is droppable.
I think he's droppable. I don't think he's a must. I'm not putting him in the garbage can like I did Robbie.
Again, and I'm not necessarily disagreeing. I haven't even decided what I'm going to write tomorrow morning because I'm on the fence. But this would be a record for the number of guys who got 10 targets in 1 week and then got dropped after the game.
Let me look up how many targets he gets from game to game.
He's definitely getting dropped going into his bye week.
10, 7, 4, 7, 3, 10.
I'm just not sure which wide receivers. I mean, it's easy to drop him for Sterling Shepard, Laviska Shenault we're talking about here.
Sure.
Who else is, I don't even know Tim Patrick's roster percentage. It's 77%. So forget him. He's too rostered.
Yep.
Oh, would you drop him for, T.Y. Hilton? Even let's say T.Y. Hilton's healthy. Would you drop Shenault for a healthy T.Y. Hilton? I think I would.
Non-PPR, that's easy to do. Half PPR, yes. Full PPR, yeah, I think I would. Look, Shenault's just not breaking out. He's not putting up huge numbers. He's a good, steady, low-end number 3 PPR volume-driven receiver.
Okay. How about also in this game, what do we think about Jalen Waddle? Waddle was only started in 41% of leagues. He caught 2 touchdowns on 13 targets, 70 yards. He's just not doing anything with these catches, but
no, because he's not going downfield very much.
Right. Yeah. So I don't know. Is Jalen Waddle ahead of Marvin Jones, Allen Robinson rest of season?
Yeah.
Is he ahead of Marvin Jones? I'm not sure if he's. I guess he is. I guess he's a little bit ahead of Marvin Jones. Definitely ahead of Allen Robinson, ahead of Laviska Shenault, ahead of Robbie Anderson.
Man, I wish Trevor Lawrence were putting up more fantasy numbers. I think we're starting to see a little bit of progress. 319 passing yards in this game, but just the touchdowns aren't there going into a bye.
I thought it was
No.
really unfair when people were talking about this game, how it was a step forward for Trevor Lawrence and Tua continues to struggle. Tua threw for more yards and threw 2 touchdowns and 1 pick.
It's really true.
I thought like this was his 11th career start. Thought he did some things that looked really good, made a couple of terrible decisions, but he's still basically a rookie quarterback.
Yeah, it's just same with Jalen Hurts. Give these guys a little time.
Right, sure. Gaskin, by the way, did not lead the Dolphins in snaps today. It went right back to Malcolm Brown. Brown had 12 of 15 snaps on 3rd and 4th downs, but when it came to red zone snaps, it was Gaskin with 6 of 9. Gaskin played 36% of the snaps, Brown 37, Ahmed 27%. This is a backfield that is ugly.
And they are the worst, I believe, the worst running team in football. Green Bay 24, Chicago 14.
Believe it or not, Khalil Herbert will be better than Damian Williams until David Montgomery returns.
This is assuming that Williams is back next week.
Right.
Well, if he's not, then he definitely will be.
Yeah. He looked great. I could see this being a lot more of a two-headed tandem until Montgomery comes back. And if Herbert keeps it up, then he'll start taking in some of the work from Montgomery and not Damian Williams.
I wouldn't be surprised if Williams is back next week, if Herbert's just basically in the Montgomery role and Williams is back in the role he was in, which was still a lot of passing down work and some running. But I think Herbert will be the lead back.
They'll need Williams next week. They play Tampa Bay. I don't think Chicago's going to run very effectively.
I am sitting Khalil Herbert. I'm sorry. I am sitting him against Tampa Bay.
It depends. If Damian Williams isn't available, then I think you might be able to play him because they'll just throw it to him.
Maybe. Did he? He had 2 catches on 3 targets. So, but they're going to throw. I think they'll throw more than 27 times next week against Tampa Bay. I don't know. Well, but I mean, I can't see them running. I can't see Khalil Herbert having 97 rushing yards.
Right. No, I can't either. I'm just not so sure that they might not just run him into the line 17 times for 52 yards.
Khalil Herbert had a 25-yard carry. That is the longest run by a running back against the Packers in 13 games, dating back to last season. Hope that made sense. A lot of prepositional phrases, I think, in there. Anything else here? Anything else? A.J. Dillon, another goodish game, but no catches. So
nope. And last week he led the Packers in red zone snaps. This week he was way behind Aaron Jones. Jones had 7 of 9, Dillon 3 of 9.
Here are Aaron Jones' total yards in his last 5 games. 115, 96, 99, 109, 110.
He's awesome.
Very good. Yep. And would you rather have at this point Jalen Hurts or Aaron Rodgers?
Hurts.
Rodgers. Because I'm a little worried about what happens when Jalen Hurts stops rushing for touchdowns.
Why would he do that?
Because this
is not like Sam Darnold where he runs 4 times a game and gets a touchdown every week. Running's the best thing he does.
I think it's close between the two of them, but I think I like Rodgers better rest of season.
2 of them. I like that. It was kind of like a Tua thing. Cincinnati 34, Detroit 11.
If you have any risk at all for any sort of heart condition, you should sell DeAndre Swift.
That's your believe it or not.
I don't think you should sell DeAndre Swift even if you do have a heart condition.
Oh, just don't check your scores then until his game's over.
Mm-hmm.
Because it does not feel good to watch DeAndre Swift for 3.5 quarters at all. The real, believe it or not, is Jamal Williams is droppable.
I think I want him on my team if I've got Swift. If I'm starting Swift each week, I want Williams on my squad. So if someone has Williams and they don't have Swift and they try and trade him to you, you should tell them to kick rocks because he is droppable if you don't have Swift.
DeAndre Swift's going to be a top 6 running back at the end of the week, I think. Maybe Aaron Jones will overtake him. I don't know who scored more points, but Swift, it's amazing. At the end of the game, he still has the stuff. Jamal Williams, I feel like he's basically a handcuff. He's probably going to be really good if Swift gets hurt.
Well, but
he still played 30% of the snaps on Sunday.
Right. This was a change this week because he wasn't a handcuff the past 2 weeks. Before this, he was getting a lot of carries.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hoping this was a change, but Williams came into this game really banged up. And both of these guys have been on the injury report the entire season. So I don't know if it was more injured than the past, but Also, we did Tyler Boyd as droppable in a non-PPR league last week. Is Tyler Boyd droppable in a PPR league?
I feel like the only time you can feel good about starting Boyd is if you really believe going into the game that the Bengals are going to have to pass a lot, play from behind, hurry up offense, and especially not be able to run the ball.
Yeah. At Baltimore next week, maybe, but it's still it's just not enough good game scripts. Burrow is really having a good year. He has scored 22 or more points in 5 of 6 games. He had the one game against Chicago where he threw, I think, 3 interceptions, but he's just, I wish he were throwing more because it's limiting his upside, but he's been steady. A lot like Aaron Rodgers, I'd say. Okay. Let's talk about T. Higgins. Is T. Higgins still a must start?
No.
He's in that Marvin Jones range.
Yep.
That is so depressing to hear.
It is. It's terrible, but he's become I think he's like a touchdown or bust type of wide receiver.
Okay.
Where if he doesn't catch one in the end zone, he's always been a red zone scorer. So there are chances every week, of course. You just mentioned how well Joe Burrow is playing. Again, if it's a matchup where the Bengals are expected to put up points and throw a lot, that's when I like T. Higgins. Anything short of that, I'm not going to like T. Higgins.
Colts 31, Texans 3. Would you rather have Higgins or Brandon Cooks rest of the season? That's easy, right?
Oh, Cooks, yeah.
Okay. Do we still consider Cooks? Are you looking to sell Brandon Cooks? Or you just want to ride it out? Another good game for him.
I think I want to get him because it was a good game for him with Davis Mills, and Tyrod Taylor will be back soon. And I think his numbers could be even better with Taylor.
He's a hold for me. Believe it or not, T.Y. Hilton, if healthy, will be the best wide receiver on the Colts rest of season.
I don't think I believe it.
Probably not. But it's if you're really invested here in Pittman, you could be a little nervous if Hilton's healthy. I hope he is. But again, this was players don't really score a lot of fantasy points on the Texans. They just don't throw that much. It's just predictable. And Wentz threw 20 times and he scored 20 points. So that's part of the reason why Pittman did not have a good game. He only had 3 targets. They completely crushed them.
But Hilton did have more targets than him.
Yeah, Hilton had 4 targets. Pittman had 3, but Pittman had 35 yards and Hilton had 80. So a much better game for T.Y. Hilton, who's 44% rostered, and if healthy, he's probably going to be closer to 70% next week. I don't know, maybe even more. How do we feel about Jonathan Taylor? He's had an interesting year, but he now has 114 or more total yards in 4 of 6 games.
How do you feel about him? He's a must-start fantasy running back.
Do you think he's
the number one fantasy running back?
But it's interesting because he hasn't had a 20 carry game, I don't think. He's usually in the 14, 15 carry range. His catches are a little unpredictable. He's had 2 games in a row now with a 70-yard play. So, you know what I'm saying? It's like he's doing a great job. He's not doing it the way we thought, I'd say.
Yeah, I guess I'd agree with that. But he's still producing. He's still the main running back. There's no real split with Naheem Hines to worry about.
Okay. Jonathan Taylor or DeAndre Swift rest of season?
I would lean toward Taylor.
Oh, I hate that. I guess I'll go Taylor. What about you?
I think I'd probably go Taylor.
Okay.
Like, I enjoyed my DeAndre Swift victory laps very much, and I feel like even if something goes wrong now, we're good. But man, he makes me nervous every week.
Kansas City 31, Washington 13.
Believe it or not, Darrell Williams is a must-start running back until Clyde Edwards-Helaire returns.
Yeah, I believe it.
Which I think that seems obvious, and 90% of people in the Twitter poll voted yes. But we did not view Clyde Edwards-Helaire as a must-start running back. There were multiple weeks where he was ranked outside the top 20 running backs.
Yeah, it's true. But
I like Darrell Williams without Clyde more than I liked Clyde.
Right. That's the thing. Because when Clyde was playing, Williams was taking those high leverage roles, and now he's taking all the roles. He played over 70% of the snaps again this week. So he's their guy. I'm a big fan of Darrell Williams.
And his second touchdown, he had I've never really thought that he was like that special, but he made a nice move in the hole on that second touchdown.
Yeah,
at Tennessee and then the Giants after that.
Woohoo!
Cool. And Taylor Heineke with a dud. My first foray into streaming quarterbacks this year didn't go very well. Thank you, Taylor Heineke. 11 fantasy points against the Chiefs, who give up the second most in the NFL. And then, we got the running back situation. So McKissick, I know Chris was really high on McKissick this week, and I get it. The Chiefs really stink against pass catching running backs, and McKissick had 8 catches for 65 yards. He also had 8 carries for 45 yards. The Gibson injury played into that. But the reason why I couldn't fully commit to liking McKissick was, the Bills game. Remember the Bills game? They got destroyed in that game. And he had a crap game. And it hasn't just been as simple as game script. But, what do you think about J.D. McKissick right now? He was 22% started.
He was already playing a decent amount of the snaps before the Gibson injury. Gibson played 50% of the snaps before leaving late in the third quarter after the injury. And keep in mind, they were playing from behind. 12 snaps. That's all they played basically in the fourth quarter. And a little bit of the third quarter. McKissick played 10 of the 12 snaps.
Question. Worryometer on, it's not really a question, or now it is. What is your worryometer reading on Terry McLaurin, who had a bad game?
I'm worried. I'm worried as far as him ever reaching the top 10 fantasy receiver territory like we spoke about in the preseason. I'm still cool with him as a number 2 fantasy wideout.
Yeah, I'm not worried. And this goes back kind of to the Keenan Allen thing too, but Terry McLaurin was the number 12 wide receiver in fantasy coming into this week. He had a bad game. Yeah,
but he's had 4 disappointing games now and 2 huge games. He's had 4 games.
And that I don't like. Yes.
Yeah, but that is important. I mean, consistency matters.
I don't.
To a lot of people.
No, I understand. I do not believe consistency over the first 5 weeks of the season or 6 weeks of the season is predictive for consistency over the last 10 weeks of the season.
Now, but here's the other thing, though. If you look at the game logs for McLaurin, and I asked you this last week, you could have made the argument, and I just want to be clear. I really like McLaurin. I'm never sitting him. And Fitzpatrick could be back next week, and he's 10% roster, by the way, so keep an eye on that. His 2 great games were against the Giants and the Falcons. Those defenses are awful.
But I thought the Giants had a really good corner.
But it's not playing out. They do. They have 2, but they're not having good years, and they have one of the worst pass rushes in football. So it's a good matchup. It's not playing out that way. It was a good matchup. Wide receivers are killing the Giants. The Chargers, the Bills, and the Saints were his 3 bad games. Those are much more understandable. Those teams are great against wide receivers. This should have been a great game for him. But what the question was, is McLaurin really a matchups guy? That would be bad. I don't think we feel that way.
Nobody does.
Okay. And I'm hoping Fitzpatrick is good for
him.
Moving on.
Yeah. He dropped 1 pass. If he'd caught it, it'd been fine.
Yeah, same with Marquise Brown. Marquise Brown dropped a touchdown as we go to Baltimore 34 and the Chargers 6. What do you got?
Believe it or not, basically all the Ravens running backs need to be rostered until we figure this out.
I don't know if I'm going to be excited to roster Le'Veon Bell.
Yeah, agreed.
But
I'm definitely going after Freeman first.
The reason I say that is I think it's really unlikely that Latavius Murray, Devontae Freeman, and Le'Veon Bell, even if they're only getting 8 to 10 carries per game, all stay healthy. Seems like at their age and with their histories, one of them's probably going to get hurt.
And sounds
if it ended
like
up being Latavius and Le'Veon, then I think Le'Veon would matter.
Return of the Mac. Bring in more of the Mac. Bring in Mark Ingram. Make a trade. Give him.
They don't need to. They just ran for like 200 yards.
You want them to go and bring in another 30-year-old running back?
They've got plenty. They have plenty.
Trade for Barkley. Give him the house for Barkley.
I mean, what's Barry Sanders doing these days? Let's go.
Okay, we talked about Keenan Allen. I'm assuming we're not worried about Mike Williams or Eckler. Just a horrible game for the Chargers. They will go into their bye week. And on the other end, the
Chargers had 8 straight drives with 5 or fewer plays. And
the whole go for it on 4th down thing didn't work out as well in their own territory this
No,
week.
It only works until it doesn't. It's like going all in all the time in poker.
And if you're gonna go for it on 4th down in a big spot and you're the worst running team in football, don't give the ball to Malcolm Brown. I know that's a completely different game.
On a shotgun play.
Awful. And then giving up the 8 or 9 yards to Chenault to get them into field goal range when they have like 9 seconds left, no timeouts, or they have 1 timeout.
5 seconds left, 1 timeout.
5 seconds left, 1 timeout. I mean, just horrible. Played that so poorly. Okay, back to this game. Lamar Jackson. Dave, I'll give you a quick word here because you had said Lamar Jackson sell high, and Heath and I were like, oh, what are you talking about? 13 points against the Chargers. What did you think here?
I think he had a pretty good game. I mean, the interceptions, I don't know if they were both his fault. I think one of them was off of somebody's hands. I'm not 100% sure on that, so don't hold me to it. But I think this is part of the possibility with Lamar Jackson this year, and we've seen it in a bunch of games. I don't think it was ever this bad. It hasn't been this bad, but it's still not what, like it makes me worried that there was some overreaction to one amazing half of football against a zone heavy and tired Colts defense. But I still look at him as a top 6 quarterback rest of season. No one's leapfrogging him.
I don't think we can say that we've overreacted to one half of football about a guy who has been the MVP and the #1 quarterback in fantasy.
But also,
but that doesn't matter anymore. Like those are things that he did, and I just don't know why he gets credit for that.
Well, that's.
But he also
why should he get credit for that when he's
why? How do we determine who's the number? Why is Christian McCaffrey the #1 running back in fantasy this year?
Because we project him to touch the ball a lot, and he's an explosive running back in Carolina, and it's a good offense.
But you think that the things that he did in the past translate to who he is now, but the things Lamar Jackson did in the past don't translate to who he is now.
But look at how Lamar Jackson has played this year, and there have been like the Detroit game.
He was on pace for 5,000 passing yards and 1,000 rushing yards coming into this game.
And how many touchdowns was he on pace for?
I do not know that number exactly.
Look, this is not me taking a victory lap at all on Lamar Jackson. I'm not naive enough to think that like this is what he's going to be from this point moving forward, which is why I'm still saying he's still a damn good fantasy quarterback.
I was only objecting to the overreact to one half comment. That's all I was. The rest of it, I'm fine with.
Okay. Well, I don't think it's right that you underreact to 3 games worth of, throughout the Detroit game, 2 games worth of from Lamar Jackson.
Well, now it's 3. Technically 4 games with 20 or fewer fantasy points.
Right.
6-point leagues for Lamar Jackson.
Right. And you understand why I'm adding the Lions game out, right?
This was his first game below 20 fantasy points this season.
Yeah, that's so what?
In decimal.
No, in non-decimal. 30.
And you know why I'm Azer-steading the Lions game, right?
Yes, because of Marquise Brown.
Right. It wasn't his.
Rams 38, Giants 11. Great game.
What was so great about it?
Great game, guys.
Giants built a 3-0 lead, and then after that, it was all Rams all the time. Stafford was awesome. Cooper Kupp was awesome. The Giants' defense stunk. Yeah, and that was that. Really, Darrell Henderson was back to having a major role. Tons of playing.
Bringing that up. Sorry, Dave. 21 carries for Henderson, 9 for Michelle, but 5 of Michelle's 9 carries came after Henderson was done.
Right.
So it was 21-4 at that point in Henderson over Michelle.
Right. So there goes the idea that it's going to be 2/3 to 1/3.
Gesicki or Higbee rest of season?
Gesicki for sure.
Higbee did have an almost touchdown.
They tried to get him in. I think he had 3 catches inside the 5.
I mean, you say Gesicki for sure, and I can't disagree, but the quality of offense is so much different. And and you didn't even have Preston Williams today. You had Preston Williams, Javonte Parker, Will Fuller all out. So just throwing that out there.
Oh, I said that for sure because I don't think Tyler Higbee's in the top 12 tight end discussion.
Okay.
He's got one game with more than 40 yards.
Right. I don't think he's got the upside that Gesicki has.
You take Ertz over Higbee?
I feel like they're the same guy.
I
feel like they're the same guy.
Yeah. I don't think Ertz is going to have a very big role.
Just to make
I think Ertz will have a good role, but I don't think it's going to be like I think it's going to be like like 5 targets, 6 targets a game. I might lean Ertz a little bit.
All right, just to make me feel better.
Okay.
Kadarius Toney was going to have a really good game, right?
He was on pace for 120 some odd yards.
No, Dave. He was on pace for a lot more than that. That was one drive.
I do not feel good that Kadarius Toney got hurt. But am I a bad person for feeling good about how many combined fantasy points Kadarius Toney and Marquise Brown scored this week after I traded them?
No,
For a
that's
first round
natural.
pick. Yes, you can enjoy that.
I don't know. I didn't say you can enjoy it, but it's you're not a bad person for feeling that way. It's me to enjoy it. He is.
By the way, Booker played 71% of the snaps. Elijah Penny 21%.
Yeah, Penny came in almost entirely when the game was out of reach.
He scored a goal line touchdown. Like
midway through the first
nightmare scenario for Javonte Booker.
Minnesota 34, Carolina 28. Overtime. Is this the 4th overtime game for them or 3 for the Vikings?
For the Vikings?
Yeah.
I think it's 3.
3. It's gotta be 3.
I mean, I'll double check for you.
All right, last game, Heath. Let's finish strong.
Yeah, I don't. There's no reason to roster Sam Darnold.
At the Giants next week.
The whole thing was a rushing touchdown mirage.
Stadium revenge game.
You can believe it or not. I just think the whole thing was a rushing touchdown mirage.
I think I agree. He has played so poorly. He's very sloppy with the last couple weeks. Very sloppy with the ball. Turnover.
He had like 14 drops today, in fairness to him. DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson just took turns outdoing each other in who could look stupider dropping a football. Sorry, stupider is a bad word. Who could look less like a football player trying to catch a ball?
Giants and Falcons are the next 2 games. That's the hesitation.
I think it's 2 overtime games for the Vikings, by the way.
That's it? They had the Tennessee game. Oh, it was.
They didn't play Tennessee. They played Cincinnati in week 1, went overtime. This game against Carolina went
Was it the Bengals who have had 3 overtime games or something?
I don't know if they've had 3. Cincinnati has, I think, 2.
Okay.
Sam Darnold has 7 passing touchdowns in 6 games.
Look, in Chicago, they would love that.
In New York, they would love that. Yeah, I know what it was, Dave. I'm sorry. I got them confused with the Bengals. The two of those 2 teams played an overtime game. The Bengals had 2. I gave them Minnesota's 1 today. So sorry about that. But that's 2 overtime games for the Vikings.
Hey, what are we doing with Christian McCaffrey? You're just going to keep him on your bench? What if you're 3-3 or 2-4? And if you trade him, what's the expectation?
I guess we're talking about people who don't have IR spots.
Yeah. Well, we're talking about people who need to win now. And we don't know when Christian McCaffrey's going to be back. He already missed a bunch of games. Now he's on IR. He clearly hurt his hamstring again for him to miss 3 more games.
I think we need to go back to the prior comment. The Daniel Jones is better than people give him credit for. At this stage in his career, you have to say Daniel Jones is better than his production says he is, because people aren't giving him credit for being worse than his numbers. Did he fumble 3 times today?
Oh, yeah.
Has he already set the record for the most fumbles in the first 3 years of a player's career?
I don't know, but Kyler Murray fumbled 4 times today and did not lose any of them. So don't be too hard on Daniel Jones. Okay, I think we can leave now. I'm just clicking comments in the YouTube chat room that are about Kadarius Toney and Daniel Jones, just for fun. Different question about Christian McCaffrey, which we should answer on Wednesday. Who's the number 1 pick next year? When does McCaffrey get drafted?
Are either of you guys good in the FFT league?
Yeah. Well, no, because I had the 3rd most points and I was 2-3, and I'm probably losing. Oh no, I'm going to win this week. I'll be 3-3.
Dave, are you any good in the FFT league?
Yes,
I'm taking a look right now.
I'm good.
I'm not.
I am favored to win against Jamie.
And that would make you what?
4-2.
4-2. Because I have Christian McCaffrey and Michael Thomas, and I'm about to be 1-5. Despite scoring like 160 points this week.
Okay.
So if you'd like to make me an offer for those guys, and I'm sure it will be a trade that I'm just ready to just accept right away without even needing to negotiate.
No, I don't think I can help you.
Yeah, okay.
All right, we are out of here, everybody. Thanks so much for listening and for watching. Check out FFT in 5 if this show was too long for you. We'll give it to you in 5 or 6 minutes. For Heath and Dave and Ben, I am Adam. Talk to you tomorrow on Fantasy Football.